History on Locked On Utes. First time ever. We're going to have 3 people on at one time. We only have the one microphone, so bear with us as we pass around with that. But so excited to have the head of Ute Zone with us. Sammy Moore has been on before, and Josh Furlong as well of KSL.com has been with us too. And we're just going to talk about Utah, and we're going to talk about which positions we have the most and least confidence in. I'll just start by saying I have the most confidence in Utah's safety room. It's actually not the offensive line in full. I have a lot of questions about the interior offensive line. I have the most confidence in Rabbit Evans and Teo Johnson. I think they're going to be absolute monsters. How would you guys feel about the safety room? Let's start there.
I agree. I think the safety room's in a really good position. You know, Teo and Rabbit, especially Rabbit, came on at the last half of last season. You know, you could see glimpses even earlier in the season with him, but once he finally fully got in that playbook and started working, you know, it made a big impact, and I think he's primed for a massive season. And obviously Teo could have, you know, taken his talents to the NFL, opted to come back. And so I agree. Like they wouldn't have been the group that I picked, but it's a good group. It's a good group. So
yeah, I agree. It wouldn't have been the group that I would have naturally first gone to. Offensive line's probably it. But with that said, Teo's one of those guys that is vastly underrated. There's, you know, if you look at a lot of kind of the ratings and the different things there, he's one of those guys that is just kind of there. But if you dig deep enough, like, he's actually one of the best players on the team. And so I think you're going to see a big breakout season from him. At least that's the expectation. Rabbit Evans, I mean, it's been all positive about him, and it's been some great momentum for him. If he can take that next step and just be that consistent every down type safety, I think Utah's going to be in a really good spot. So the more that I think about it, I think you're right. I mean, I think it's one that you have a lot of confidence in. On the defensive side of the ball, that's a good thing, right? You've got your guys that are back there that are able to help. So I think that's a good spot. So I would still say offensive line, but why the offensive line? Well, I mean, you've got 2 guys that are anchoring that offensive line on the ends who are potentially first-round picks next year. Spencer's getting a lot of the praise for good reason, but Caleb Lomu is maybe even potentially better. That's the crazy thing. So those 2 there, but you also have your interior linemen that are veteran players. They've been in the system. Those 2 are going to get the attention because of what they've done and kind of their ceiling. The others have been in that system for a long time. They know the plays. You've got a very veteran unit that is going to do a lot of good. Now, the crazy thing is week 1, you're going to hear somebody be like, this offensive line can't do anything. What are they doing? Give it some time. It takes a minute. You got to get back into real reps. And so I think, you know, that's the unit that I have the least confidence in, but I understand it's not the most sexy position.
I was actually going to go on the defensive side, and I was going to go with the linebacker room. You know, you got Lander coming back, you got Leivani coming back, you got John Hall coming back. That's a good 3 backer situation you have. Again, Lander, you know, same situation as Teo. He could have went to the NFL, he opted to come back. Leivani, you know, missed all of last season with that Achilles injury, but he's going to be back this year. And Jono, in his first full season, actually, he made the switch from safety to linebacker around this time last year, like in the right before fall camp. And, you know, he showed some really good glimpses, and it's going to be interesting to see how a full, you know, off season works for him. But like, not only those 3, you know, Trey Reynolds is in that room. Cyrus Paulu, one of the freshmen, you know, that's a good linebacker room, I think. So, I mean, offensive line, yeah, is probably the offensive group I have the most confidence in, but defensively, I personally, outside of safety, would go with linebacker.
Yeah, and I love linebacker. I mean, I know it was Jonathan Hall's first year last year. I felt like he grew a lot throughout the season, and what I loved about him most in that bowl game against Northwestern was what he did as a safety in the box. So you're telling me he's going to play close to the line more. I was a fan of that. Still had some growing pains and things to learn there, but Karene Reed's injury really threw that group off, I felt like, last year. Part of the reason Lander had it down here. I felt like they asked different things of him, and he wasn't able to execute as cleanly in a way. So I think he's going to have a bounce-back year, and so excited to Mooney's back as well, hopefully at full health too. But, yeah, for me, offensive line wasn't the pick, because if we were going super specific, like offensive tackles, obviously, would be the number 1 by far. Fano, Lomu, I can't debate that. But I just look at the interior offensive line. I feel like we've been trying to make Jaron Kump work for a few years. He got better as the year went on. There were still some good moments, but I just still, like, for me, top, like some people be top 3 offensive line, I can't go there just based on what I've seen from Kump. I like Mokafisi, still quite hasn't gotten to where I want him to be in pass protection. And then Tongai is a run blocker as well Tongai is a run blocker better, but he's still like just that ability to hold blocks long enough. Sometimes I just feel like that's something that group hasn't always done. It's a group that has experience. Jim Harding's the coach. I think they're going to do a good job. It's a Utah offensive line. They'll be well, but I do have some questions there. But if we were going to go what I had the least confidence in, it's wide receiver. You could also argue defensive tackle, maybe, just because of the lack of certain bodies and experience in there. Sam, you can talk about, you have a cool stat you had yesterday about experience with that. But for me, it's the wide receiver. Tobias Merriweather didn't really work as well at Cal or Notre Dame, and he's going to be number one. Could it work? Sure. We don't know that. Outside of that, Creed Whitmore didn't do anything in Mississippi State, right? Ryan Davis, great at New Mexico. He's got to make this G4, the Group of 5 jump to P4. And just in spring ball, we saw the wide receiver out of Utah State, whose name Otto Tia. Thank you. Otto Tia, we felt so good about him at wide receiver. He's got to be a tight end now. Like, they moved him to tight end already. So, to me, wide receiver is by far my biggest question mark and just unknown on this roster. What position does Utah absolutely need to be good that does have the biggest question mark right now?
I'm going to say quarterback. And the reason I'm going to go quarterback, we saw what happened last year if you didn't have a successful quarterback, right? Now, I will say that this year, the system is set up in a better way where a quarterback can be better used regardless of who the QB is, right? So if Devon Dampier goes down for whatever reason, I feel like Utah can absorb that much more than they did last year. Andy Ludwig's system was so challenging that it took years to be able to learn it, and it just didn't work. Jason is going to scheme things in a way that's going to be much better. But I think you need that quarterback room to hit. So all the other positions we saw last year, defense, they could do their part. They still had their problems, right? They lacked tackling at times. They weren't great in havoc plays, that kind of stuff. But if you don't get that QB position down, you're going to be in a world of trouble. So, I mean, it's kind of a cop-out in some respect because QB is like, well, duh. But at the same time, I think based on what we've seen the last 2 years for Utah, not having even like a marginally good quarterback really hurts this team. So I think Devon is definitely way better than marginally good. But I think if that doesn't hit, then this Utah team is back to where they were last year.
I might have a cop-out answer here, but I'm still going to go for it. I'm going to say the pass rush unit, I think, is mine. I was looking at stats like a couple of days ago, and Utah, like Jonah Ellis was the last edge rusher to have double-digit sacks for Utah, and that was this will be 2 years since he's left, and he didn't even play the full season. And so, you're just going to need more from the pass rush unit as a whole. I'm not saying that Aliki and Dallas need to have 7 sacks each, because it would be great. It would be nice, but those interior guys aren't going to be the ones that are going to be producing most of the sacks. I think you're going to need a lot from Logan. You're going to need a lot from John Henry. You're going to need some from Lance, and I'm trying to think, and Paul, and just because those are the 4 that we kind of expect to be leading the charge in that edge room. Lander's going to get his, Le'Veon's going to get his, Jono's probably going to get his, but Utah needs to have you need to have at least someone in the double-digit sacks, I think, by the end of the season, because, we saw last year that Utah's defense could keep them in as many games as possible. And they kept them in a lot of games that they shouldn't have been in because the defense was just so good. And so I think that if they were able to close out a few more drives, I think things would have ended differently for certain games. The quicker the offense or the quicker the defense gets off the field, the better, because sometimes you could see it late in the game. I think that BYU game is a big one. That defense was gassed because the offense couldn't move the ball more than 10 yards. And so, I think getting that pass rush unit back up to where Utah standards. I said last week on Utes Zone that we need to start a campaign for the new mayor of Sac Lake City. Yes. And so everyone get ready to campaign for your candidate. But yeah, I think, you need to, that group as a whole, linebackers, tackles, and edge, they need to be, getting that double-digit sack totals this season.
Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money just felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. With me, one thing I love about Monarch Money is I just feel like I'm always spending more than I intend to, and Monarch Money helps me keep everything organized. You'd be surprised how quickly purchases add up. With Monarch Money, it keeps you up to date and helps you keep everything organized. You can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. It's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege, all caps, no spaces, for half off your first year when you use Monarch Money today.
And guys, it's so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me. Once again, Sammy Moore of Ute Zone. Make sure you guys head over, follow her on X, as well as check out the Ute Zone site, and Josh Furlong as well at ksl.com. That is going to do it for our show today. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Utes.